This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1607, Comic Talk.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Danny O'Brien.
Comic geek speak.
And welcome to the show. Our usual comic talk where it's all over the place stuff. And as Murd sort of pointed out before we started recording, this is sort of an unique configuration of Geeks. We haven't sort of had this combination before.
We never had quite this trio of people together on a podcast before.
Actually, no, I don't think so.
Anything can happen, folks.
Oh, yeah. We also wild and crazy. But yeah, unfortunately, family obligations with both Chris and Shane kept them away from recording. They send their love to all of you. But we're actually planning a nice big recording in the future. Would have happened this week with the Preacher book of the month is our next, hopefully, big group recording. We wanted to have it timed in sort of going out with the AMC TV series coming out. Actually premieres this Sunday. We haven't seen the episode as we record this yet.
Yep, by the time you hear it, you probably will have, though.
Yeah, but we wanted to sort of get it out there, get the comic book out there, the story. And we're planning on doing the first 12 issues, which is, as Danny's husband Bill pointed out, is pretty much the story in the first hardcover collection. Because there were, I think, 9 trades, and now I think there's 6 hardcovers. So they sort of moved it around. Plus, it also is a good point because it doesn't really get into the Grail, which is a whole other ball of wax. So we're going to try to get that to an iPod near you in the not-too-distant future. All right, so... as we record this episode, it's been a few days since we learned of the passing of Darwyn Cooke. He passed away Saturday, May 14th. Quite sudden to me. I believe people who were closest to him knew he was ill, but it seemed,
I think so.
It seemed to take a very drastic turn rather quickly. We heard he was getting some special care for aggressive cancer on Friday, and then less than 24 hours later, he had passed away.
The age of, 53?
53, yeah.
My goodness, far, far, far too soon.
Yes.
As many of the CGS family have observed of late, F cancer.
Yeah, there's got to be something more than just saying that we can do, because I've just had it with me these last couple of years. And I know I'm not the only one. It's sad to hear that say. And there are some great stories online. I mean, my Facebook feed was just filled with people who were either friends with him or enjoyed his work so much. Jimmy Palmiotti and Manor Connor were very close to him, and they took this very hard. And I've been reading all of Jimmy's stories, and you probably search them online. Some really fun stories about, like, they were out to dinner in Los Angeles, and I guess Darwyn was having a beef with DC, and Dana Dio was there, and the meal was on Warner Brothers, so Darwyn just ordered like the biggest steak he could, the biggest lobster. It was just
doggy bagged whatever he couldn't eat.
Right? Yeah, that was a good. There's a good story about.
Way to do it.
I wish I knew more about this. There's a story about Darwyn dressing up as Winnie the Pooh and scaring a sleeping Dan DiDio. I don't know what that was about. That made me laugh when I saw that. There's a great Gail Simone story about a choice she had to make, where she had just met him and briefly started in the business, and he was at a con and he drew her a huge black canary, like head and torso sketch, more than a sketch, a piece. And he said, either you can have this that I drew for you, or any page you want from the New Frontier. So read that to find out what she chose. You're
going to leave us hanging, huh?
Well, I could never tell the story as well as she could. So there are a lot of Darwyn Cooke stories out there, and his work speaks for itself. I mean, I first became aware of his work through the Slam Bradley backup in Detective Comics, which then led into Catwoman.
Right.
Murd, is that sort of when you first saw him as well? Did you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Danny, do you remember when you first started reading his work?
Probably. Didn't he do a Catwoman book?
Yeah, that
Catwoman
was
story.
Yeah, that was. Let me see. That looks like issue 1 came out in January of 2002.
I gotta say that's probably around. I'm assuming that's when I probably discovered him.
Yeah, because I think Slam Bradley was in Catwoman.
It was called
Yes.
the Hunt for Catwoman, I think.
Oh, that's right.
That
Yeah.
backup story. So yeah, he's just doing his private eye thing, going through the seamy underbelly, the crime noir style story of Gotham City, trying to find what's happened to the missing Selina Kyle. And as you said, Brian, that was a direct lead-in into that Catwoman series that Danny mentioned.
Yeah. And then, of course, for me, when he really exploded on the scene was with DC's A New Frontier in 2004 when that came out. That just knocked my socks off, being a fan of the Silver Age characters, even the late Golden Age characters, a Martian Manhunter, Task Force X, Challengers of the Unknown, that whole thing.
Yeah, so like Silver Age and shading back into the Atomic Age.
Atomic Age, Monster Island. Just amazing scope of the story, and the art was just amazing, and it was just... I wish I could describe his style better. I've heard it described as things like, retro style, but it was just so much more than that. It was just so evocative, I think, of the late 50s, early 60s. Because when he did the adaptations for IDW of the Parker books with, his Hunter stories, that was just noir right from that era, the 60s. It was even set in the 1960s, and that was amazing. But Murd, what was your thoughts on The New Frontier? I know because you're sort of that DC-ish guy.
Haven't read it yet.
Whoa, my goodness, I did not know that.
I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean,
oh my God, that's right. I'm so silly of me.
I mean, I watched the direct-to-DVD animated movie that was made of it.
Okay.
But I understand that there's several differences between the two stories.
Right. Well, yeah, because I got my copy of the Absolute Edition here with me.
Oh,
just paging through it.
He does, too. Yeah, as you said earlier, Brian, the Facebook feeds of all of us, I think, are... we're just lighting up with people posting their favorite Darwyn Cooke artwork. And, I mean, you posted your Batwoman head sketch that you had to do.
If you want to show Danny that. Yeah, okay, well, we'll segue into that story.
Oh, that's going to be on one of the... there we go.
So, yeah, I
Oh, wow.
looking back, I started really getting into original art in around 2006. I started getting sketches. I just had it just came to me, I see people have these sketchbooks and they get themes of it. What can I do that's sort of an interesting theme? So I decided to choose a character at that time that this was before 52 started, where you haven't seen her in a while. I got the Kathy Kane Silver Age Batwoman. She was my go-to person to have people draw sketches of her. And of course, not long after that is when Kate Kane came into the 52 and sort of that off. But she was my go-to character for sketches, and I had gotten a few by that early on in 2006, 2007. And in 2007, I went to my first San Diego Comic-Con. And Hero Initiative, if you know anything about Hero Initiative, they're a not-for-profit group that, raise money for comic book creators who may have, for one reason or another, fallen on hard times or whatever. So they always have a booth at Comic-Con. They have artists come by and, sketch or sign for donations to the Hero Initiative. So my first one there, I saw Darwyn Cooke was doing some sketches for the Hero Initiative. So I made my way over to the booth. I'm not sure if I actually saw him there at the booth because he might have been doing other things at the time, but I got on his list for the Silver Age Batwoman. Sort of right up his alley with the New Frontier, that sort of late Silver Age, late Atomic Age, early Silver Age drawing. So I felt he would do a good job with it, and he did. So that's the only piece of art I have from Darwyn Cooke.
Just still more than a lot of people have.
Well, it's true. Now, these next couple stories sort of paint me in a nice light, which I don't really like to talk about. So it's not why I'm telling these stories. But, around that time, I used to go to I still do, but I went to so many conventions. And folks would hear me tell stories about getting a Darwyn Cooke sketch, for instance. And, I get some requests, hey, if you go to a con, you can get me this sketch or whatever. And I couldn't take all the people that were requesting sketches for me to get for them. But I actually got requests for 2 different people for Darwyn Cooke. And I managed to help them out. Brent Schoonover artist friend of ours. You know, he's from, I think he's doing Ant-Man right now. We knew him first from, I guess, like Horrorwood back at like Ape Entertainment, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I think it was Ape a long time ago.
Back in the day.
He did that Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D. Series for Marvel not long ago.
Back in, I think, like March of 2008, I was down at MegaCon down in Orlando, Florida, and he had asked me if I'd get a list and get a Darwyn Cooke sketch for him. Because, Brent is a big fan of Slam Bradley. So I managed to go down there, and I got on Darwyn Cooke's list and said, hey, can you draw for a friend of mine Slam Bradley? And he was like, that's great. Because we got so many requests for like superheroes, like, you know, Batman, Superman, from the New Frontier. He was pleased to get a Slam Bradley request. It's just, it's Slam standing up there. He's smoking a cigarette outside of a building that says, thank you for not smoking. And he signed it for Brent, Best, Darwyn, and Slam. And, you know, I was happy to do it. And I know Brent was very pleased. And then I saw Brent, you know, after the word came by of Darwyn passing away, Brent posted to his Facebook page that his heart was broken to read about Darwyn Cooke's passing. Says he was an incredible inspiration on my work. I was very fortunate to have him do a cover for The Phantom a few years back when Brent worked on The Phantom. Such an honor. And he says, years ago, a friend got me this Slam Bradley piece at a convention he attended. And now this is Brent. He goes, I look at it every day before I start working. Thanks for everything, Darwyn. Life well lived. So that just made me so much more pleased that it meant so much to Brent, that he looks at it every day. Because Brent mentioned to me at the time that he never thought he'd get to a con where he would see Darwyn, and I was happy to oblige him. And, you know, that's just that extra thing that makes me feel that I was able to help him out with it.
Gift well given and a gift well appreciated.
And then
looking at that drawing, just every time Brent looks at Slam in that Cooke sketch, Slam is looking right back at him with that sort of wry smile on his face, slouching there.
The handwriting is gorgeous on it. The thank you for not smoking sign, like God, the typography is beautiful, and just the simple lines to show that there's a building landscape. He was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess he started out in animation. I think he did the opening for Batman Beyond, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, it took him a while to get into the comic business. I think with Batman Ego was his first big work, I think like 2002. I
remember that. And it goes back to what you said about his being influenced by the 50s and 60s too. It's I see a lot of commercial draftsmanship of that era in his work, except there's a heightened level of energy. You know, it lives. It's not just static images there to sell vacuum cleaners or whatever. There's that the animation needed for not cell animation, but the figuratively speaking, the soul, there's an animated quality to the work that gives it life beyond just just the static line work that would have characterized such a commercial artwork of the time. So yeah, it's again that's the script, the typography that Danny was praising, and then the simple lines in the background. It boils down to the sort of thing that was appearing in like magazine advertisements and illustrations of the late 50s and early 60s. That inspired him, and darned if he didn't prove that it was perfectly compatible with superheroes.
And then a couple of months later, in 2008, I think it was in June, I was down at Heroes Con, and Paolo Belfiore, who runs Cadence Comic Art, wanted to also get a Darwyn Cooke sketch. And his request was a little different. He gave me a picture of his then fiancée, Erin, and he wanted Darwyn to draw Erin as a bride.
Aww.
And so when I went over to Darwyn, she's actually Danny's seeing the image right now. When I went over to Darwyn and asked him about that, show him the photograph, he was sort of playfully incensed. He goes, "Oh, you guys." You know, thinking, "Oh, you know, I can't draw. This is a beautiful woman. You want me to render her?" But he was so humble. I said, "It's for a friend. It's for his fiancée." And turns out, I don't think I knew at the time. Let me see how Powell phrases it, or his wife said it. They based their wedding on that. I think that was their invitation. That the image of Erin as the bride. So he drew Erin as a bride, and it's just beautiful. And I know it meant a lot to both Paolo and Erin. I mean, here's a comic book art dealer who wanted to get a sketch, not to resell it, just it meant so much to him for his then fiancée, for his wife. And again, I don't like talking about this, but I was very happy to see how happy it made him and her. Again, probably somebody who I'm not sure if he would ever gotten to the con to see Darwyn Cooke again. So I was very happy to do that. And I see so many people posting online, and on our Facebook feed, all these friends, I never got to meet him. I would have loved to. So Jamie said it so many times. If you're ever at a show or have the opportunity to meet somebody whose work you admire, just go up and just talk to them and thank them.
Yeah. Just shake their hand. Don't need to be eloquent about it.
Yeah, I mean...
Just give them some simple gesture of appreciation to let them know how much you like their work and how it's enriched you.
Yeah. So yeah,
well, you can, because you never know when you're ever going to get that chance.
Well,
again.
yeah, that's the sad truth of it all. So yeah, you really need to bump that up on your queue there, Murd, if you can. The New Frontier.
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. Yeah, the only Darwyn Cooke story I had to share actually ties into that same MegaCon visit you mentioned earlier.
Oh, okay.
And I was trying to... actually, during our recent guest shot on Comic Timing Podcast, co-host Brent Cosina, who lives down in Florida, and I were trying to figure out when it was we went down to Orlando for MegaCon, and I think we arrived at the same conclusion you did, 2008. Mm-hmm. And I remember, it's not even really a story about the con itself. We were just sitting around in the lobby of our hotel, and who should come sauntering over but Darwyn Cooke himself. He just kind of slouched up to us, sat down in an easy chair nearby, and said, "Hey, guys." Just kind of sat there and hung out with us for a little while.
That's right. I forgot about this.
I don't even know if he knew who we were or what, or if he just thought, there's some nice looking kids with an open seat near them. I'll give him a thrill. But it's an illustration of what just a nice, easy going, down to earth guy he was. Mm-hmm. Just an unassuming gentleman, and just a little on the gruff side, but
fun
to be around.
Yeah. So I mean, I just remember there's another Buzz. Had a great story as well about Darwyn Cooke, about how he first met him. And again, a lot of the stuff is online. I don't want to tell their stories for them, but just so many, again, whether it's a fan of his work, just someone who reads comics, or creators who respected him and his work and then got to know the man. It's just the lasting impression is only 53. I mean, goodness gracious. And just, I remember like last year, DC did a variant cover month. Almost every comic they put out had a Darwyn Cooke cover on, like a widescreen cover on it.
Right, like horizontally oriented. Yeah.
Amazing
like
stuff.
Landscape as opposed to... Yeah, and I have a couple of those. I went for the He-Man Eternity War one that he did, and I couldn't turn down the issue of Supergirl with like Silver Age Supergirl and the Legion of Super Pets. Oh. Yeah, some of those were really beautiful, fun, joyous pieces of artwork. Mm.
So, yeah, very, very sorry. So now, I was checking out his blog, and, people always say, what can I do to help? Well, donations can be made to the Canadian Cancer Society, as well as Hero Initiative, in Darwyn Cooke's name. So check that if you'd like to help out with that.
No. And talking of pieces of art that were put up on our friends' Facebook feeds, Uncle Sal posted an image of an Atomica cover that Cooke had done for him.
Yes! Yeah, I saw that.
Apparently he just met Darwyn at a con and described the concept of Atomica to him, and Darwyn Cooke said, that sounds like a fun idea. And like 48 hours later, Sal had this piece of artwork in his hands.
Oh, wow.
And it's... Yeah, we don't have a picture of that queued up to show you, Danny. But
that's okay.
It really was pretty gorgeous. And again, since Atomica draws on the sort of Soviet, the self-mythologization of the Soviet regime of the early Cold War era, it was equal parts ancient deities and modern propaganda. That's kind of where the Atomica character came from. It was well suited to Darwyn Cooke's late 50s art sensibility. Mm-hmm. And the result was pretty striking.
Yep.
So go to Sal Abernathy's Facebook feed and see if you can find the image he posted.
I might even put it out on one of the other medias, like Instagram or what have you there. But Yes. Very sad to hear that.
53 years old is just it's too soon to lose anybody. But just a treasure of the medium like him. His loss will be especially keenly felt.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing that you only hear, like, really, really good stories about him. You don't hear anyone bad-mouthing him. Like, everyone is just, there's so much love pouring out for it. And that's really, I mean, it's sad that he passed away, but it's really nice to hear that everyone has these really nice memories to share about him instead of someone who, you know, passes away that you end up hearing, like, how shitty they were.
Right. All right, well... Let's see, also as we record this, it's sort of towards the end of the TV season here in the U.S., and they're also announcing all the new fall shows that are coming out. And I guess one of the bigger news is that, of course, Supergirl has been renewed, but it's now moving from CBS to the CW.
Kind of a surprise.
Yeah. So now, check out this lineup for the CW. Monday nights, you have Supergirl. Tuesday night, you have The Flash. Wednesday, you've got Arrow. And Thursday, I think maybe not till December, you've got DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Oh, my God. And now, you read things online, not sure if they're true, but I think they're talking about at some point doing some sort of, like, crossover between all four of the shows.
I have seen rumors of that, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, as Bill Dowdy put it on his Facebook page, Crisis on Earth CW.
So I'm going to have to assume, Murd, you're not caught up on, like, let's say, The Flash, are you?
I'm the closest to being caught up on The Flash, but I'm still about 3 episodes behind.
We haven't watched Tuesday's episode yet.
Tonight.
That'll... Bill... We don't have cable.
I know.
So we didn't watch it Tuesday.
I know.
And Bill works until really late on Wednesday. So the first time we get a chance to watch it is tonight.
Comic shop managers and their schedules.
I know. Don't even get me started. But yeah, we'll watch that tonight with Arrow. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back in the fall as well.
Okay.
But the other show wasn't picked up.
Oh, yes, the proposed spin-off.
Oh, right, with Mockingbird.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not going forward, so we don't know yet what their character's fate is going to be on the TV show because they left, and so maybe
I hope they bring them back.
Maybe they'll come back. It's like, look, hey, we're back.
Yeah, just make up some weird excuse why they're back. Like, they were so good on the show. Like, I was actually very upset when they left, and now to hear that their show hasn't been picked up, that's upsetting. And they also canceled Agent Carter, which is a travesty.
Oh, saw that too. Like, oh, man.
So now we're left with just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And
yeah.
I kind of gave up on that, well, before the mid-season break, actually. So I didn't even know that Barbara Morse and whatever her ex-husband's name.
Hunter, right?
Yeah,
Hunter.
I didn't know that they'd left the show.
Yeah, they had proposed a spin-off, and then it was dead, and then it was back on, and they wrote them out of the show, and then I guess, I don't know if they filmed the pilot. I'm assuming they filmed the pilot.
They must have, yeah. It just didn't get picked up, yeah. And who knows if we'll ever see that. I mean, if we'll ever see that. I mean, probably if you look online at some point, I'm sure it'll be like that Wonder Woman thing from a few years ago got online. Well, actually, Adrienne Palicki was Wonder Woman. Yep. She's also Mockingbird, so...
Huh. Well, maybe they can modify it into an episode of season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hey, it's sitting around. Might as well use it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because,
Save a few dollars.
Unused pilots seem to have like a special place. They just go off and die. You never see them again. Now, speaking of TV, I'm not very bright sometimes, as you can well imagine. So, are either of you watching Arrow this season?
Yes.
Okay. So... You know there is a character called Damien Dark.
Yes.
I didn't realize it till maybe a month or so ago when I was getting ready for Civil War. I was watching Captain America: The First Avenger, and I didn't realize that the actor Neil McDonough, who plays Damien Dark, also played Dum Dum Dugan.
Is that so?
So you've got yes. So look at how this for an alliteration. He played Dum Dum Dugan and Damien Dark. But I'm looking, I was like, I'm so stupid. Of course that was obvious.
Damn.
No.
That took me way too long.
Yes, it did.
I don't have my usual comic timing tonight.
Oh God, we can't talk about that either. So it's like, oh, where's the
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
We can talk about up to, but not including this week.
Right. Well, I'll give you one thing that happened in this week, and it's not a spoiler or anything, but they mentioned just in passing, see if Danny picks up on this, in Arrow about Mount Weather. Do you know what that's about, Danny?
Yes, because I've been watching the 100.
The 100.
Oh, 100, whatever.
Yeah, so they mentioned that in the episode of Arrow. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I know what that's from.
That's funny. Yeah, we're almost finished with the first season of that show.
Oh, the second season, really good. So,
I was pleasantly surprised at how good the show is. I wasn't expecting. I mean, if you hear teens apocalypse and CW, it's not something that makes me think I need to watch this. But Bill and I keep watching, going, "Oh my God, this is really dark. This is really good."
So, yeah, looking at the fall schedule, and, you know, I watch way too much TV because I have way too much time on my hands. But there are 6 shows on the CW that I'm going to be watching. Those 4 I mentioned, plus The 100 and iZombie. It's like, wow.
We still haven't watched iZombie yet.
Oh, it's another good show.
Yeah, it's on the list of things that we have to watch. We just keep getting waylaid. Plus, we don't have a lot of time, so we end up just watching our shows and then picking one show to kind of binge watch in between those shows.
It's basically a horror, comedy, police procedural.
Well, yeah, it's done by Veronica Mars, creator, so
That's correct.
I totally need to see it.
Yeah.
I just... It's just for some reason, I think because it's a zombie thing and I'm not huge about horror, I keep kind of glossing over it.
Well, yeah, of the 3 genres I just mentioned, horror is the least prevalent. It's just
okay.
It's about a medical examiner who becomes a zombie and needs to feast on brains occasionally to avoid lapsing into the usual shambling, mindless state that we associate with zombies. Plus, whenever she eats a piece of a person's brain, she gains some of that person's memories and abilities. So that's the hook.
And help solve crimes.
Exactly.
And these last season was an intertwining plot, and it reaches conclusion. Just good stuff. Doesn't have a whole lot to do with the comic book, but still, really, really good stuff. So yeah, CW. Who would have thunk it?
It's growing up with us.
Yeah, really. Well, I mean, it did have Gilmore Girls on it at one point, so it's always had props.
Oh, that's true. That's true. All right, and I guess the other big news, and this is where Danny is going to shine here, is that DC Comics has announced they're having a new logo. Now, Danny, when you're not out fighting crime at night as kickboxing woman, so tell the listeners, of course, what you do for your day job.
I'm actually a graphic designer. I work in a marketing department of a company that sells office products. It's not very exciting. It's kind of boring, but I did go to school. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in graphic design. Spent a lot of time studying this stuff. I remember some of it.
So I think she has a unique perspective as both being a graphic designer as well as a comic geek. So, Danny, why don't you go ahead and tell us all about the DC logo? Because it doesn't really matter much to me. I mean, yeah, okay, it's kind of cool. I'm so used to the DC Bullet from the 70s and 80s and 90s. And I guess they made a big deal in, I think it was 2005, when they had the swoosh logo.
Yes, the swoosh.
And I believe that debuted on, let's see if I have it up here, I guess
2005.
The Return of
Donna Troy.
That DC comic book.
special, right.
And so, like, first, it was like they made a big deal about having a collector's edition on it. It's like, it's a new logo. Who the frick cares?
Well, it was a big deal, because, I mean,
well, that's true. Yeah, I
the
guess.
Bullet logo was from 1976. So, I mean,
Right.
going from 1976 to 2005, that's a long chunk of time having that same logo.
Right. So, Yeah, and then I guess they had the other logo, which has like the DC, where there's like...
Right, the D is like the front page, and you're turning it, and you can see the C revealed behind it.
Right, and they've used that and put all kinds of images behind that for like the movies and the TV.
Mm-hmm. They've leveraged it across media, yep. And I don't think any of us were really all that happy with it to begin with.
It didn't bother me one way or the other, really.
I didn't think it was a terrible logo, per se. And Dan, you can disagree with me if you like, of course, because you know more about this sort of thing than I do. But I thought it was kind of a poor logo for a comic book company. It didn't have enough dash to it. It looked more like something that you would see on Scholastic paperbacks, or maybe the logo for a company that manufactures adhesive labels. But yeah, for a comic company, it didn't quite do it.
Yeah, the weird thing is when they first announced the Peel Away logo, I didn't like it. I mean, when you look at it in black and white, it's not very striking. But once you start seeing it in all the media, and then seeing it with the different colors, the way they branded it for every character, it did become interesting. Like, I do think it needed some tweaks to it, and I don't think they figured out the proper way to place it on a page, on a comic. So when it was on the cover, it just kind of sat there and looked odd, but it looked good on the big screen, I think. Like, whenever we watch, Arrow or Flash or something, when it comes up at the end, it looks good on the TV screen.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the animation is what helps it.
Yeah. But I think the problem is they slapped together a logo and then they threw it on the page, on the cover of the comics, but it didn't play well with the logos on the cover and then the images. It's really hard to do. I can't even imagine what it's like to put together a comic cover because there's so much stuff competing. You've got like this dynamic image and then the logo of the whatever title it is, and then you have the brand. I think when you look back at the old Marvel stuff, I think from the 80s, where it had, the Marvel logo and then the square and it had the characters on it and then the number and then the date, that was like a really interesting way and a great way to put everything together. And it was all on the same page, and it made sense because when you're looking through a rack, it's easy to find things. And nowadays, I'm just going to go on a rant now.
No, go
when
right
you
ahead.
look at comics, it's so hard to find where the issue number is and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like you're sitting on a shelf, and if you stagger books, it's really hard to find things. And I just think that's just it's a sloppy design that a lot of comics end up making. But I think because no one's thinking about like when it's in a bin, when it's on a shelf, things like that.
Well, just want to mention that the new logo is to debut on May 25th with the release of DC Universe Rebirth Special Number 1. So that's when it's going to debut. And it says here, this is a press release from DC, the new identity and logo were developed in partnership with Pentagram, the world's largest independent design consultancy, which I've never heard of. Have you heard of them, Danny?
Yes, they're a pretty famous design agency.
Okay.
I'm curious to know what the partnership is, because my thoughts and feelings on the logo are not very strong, and I know it's a good company, so I'm curious to know when they say partnership, do they mean everyone got into a room and thought of ideas, and then they decided to can all the ideas that Pentagram had, and then went with something themselves? Or someone at Pentagram could have done this. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I want to have you talk more about just one quick thing. I saw Jim Lee today. I think it was today, maybe a day ago. Put out an Instagram. Oh, so you saw this? It says this from Jim Lee. It says the nooks and angles are meant to evoke the Superman S. The Wonder Woman WW emblem, and the Bat logo. That's from Jim Lee.
I didn't get any of that myself.
You can kind of see it. You can see the emblem, the S emblem, and the D and the C. I'm assuming that in the crooks of the D and the C might be the Bat symbol. I don't know.
Squinting at it, turning my head different ways.
Yeah,
I guess the angular shape of the octagonal shape at the tops of the letters might make me think of the pentagonal Superman-esque shield, but other than that, I'm really not getting any of that. To me, it just kind of looks like the logo of a high school sports program.
Yes, it's very blocky with the serifs.
With the what?
Serifs.
The serifs.
Oh, okay.
It's the ends of the letters.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Dumb it down for pants every now and then.
Kind of like those triangular notches in the middle of the letters, those like pennant-shaped sections of negative space. But again, to me, I like this logo just fine. It's just a little bland and utilitarian for a comic book company. You need something with a little more drama. And I think the DC Bullet, I think, is still the gold standard for those of us in this conversation. The Star Swirl was pretty cool, too. And this, I understand, and this might tie back into what you said about how, the back and forth between them and Pentagram, Danny. They may have told them that they wanted something retro, something that will evoke their past.
Yeah.
And going back to these images of past logos that Brian provided us, it's most reminiscent of the one they used for a couple of years in the early 70s, starting in 1972. And I guess they're hoping that there are little bits and pieces of other logos they've tried incorporated in there, too. And apparently also the chest symbols of a couple of their characters. Not that I could tell. So if they're going for retro, that's probably the note that they gave to Pentagram, and it might be why they ended up with this instead of something a little stronger. Again, I kind of like the drawing, and it's going to look great, I think, on the more retro-themed titles that DC's going to put out, like the Hanna-Barbera things, even like a Scooby-Doo team-up. The stuff like that, this logo would suit just fine, but the more contemporary, the superhero series that are more contemporary in nature and subject matter, it's going to look a little bit out of place, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So what do you think about it, Pants? Any opinions? You don't have to have an opinion.
I really don't. I mean, maybe if I was more into DC in the last 5 years than I was the previous 20, I might have a strong opinion. But yes, I love the DC Bullet. That's my logo. I didn't mind the swoosh, and I don't even mind the DC page turning. I don't necessarily focus on that. I try to focus more on the content, obviously, of the books.
Sensible.
But again, in my plebeian way, it looks fine to me. Does that even make any sense?
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Fine. You can switch back to the camera angle of you guys, because I have a picture of the logo.
Okay.
I have it.
Okay, but now Danny has, I understand, volumes and volumes of notes. Do you not, Danny?
She actually has like a full-size printout of it in front of her there.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I do. I have a printout. Well, you can't see it, but I did circle things that I did write some notes.
All right, break it down for us, Danny.
Okay, let's see. Well, I don't like it.
That's good for a start.
I have a bad feeling there's going to be some hate on the forums about my negativity.
We just appreciate your honesty, Danny. Just be honest. Just give your honest opinion.
That is the CGS.
Can't ask for more than that.
Exactly. I truthfully, and the interesting thing was when it was announced, I looked at it, didn't like it, kept looking at it, tried to formulate why I wasn't liking it, and then I did ask my coworker, who's also a designer, I said, did you see this logo? And she looked at it, and she also hated it. And then we went into a discussion about what we disliked about it. I think some of my problems with it is the angular nature of everything that's going on. I think the idea of trying to cram in all this history into one logo is a bit too much. The idea that you're trying to get like the three symbols in and you're trying to harken back to the old logos. And I mean, I think everyone's gold standard is the 76 Bullet, and there's a good reason why. It's designed actually by a very famous designer called Milton Glaser. He's like a design god, so I mean, you don't mess with that. I think my problem, what drives me crazy, is the C, the top of the C. I don't understand why the serif is crooked at one point. The divots in the bowls, in the D and the C, also don't make any sense to me. when I first saw it, I thought they were trying to make word balloons, actually. So I don't know if that's supposed to be a word balloon or if it's supposed to be part of someone's symbol, the angular nature.
The top of the Superman S, I think.
Yeah, and then if you look at the D doesn't make any sense because you have the top, you have a serif going on, but the bottom doesn't really have a serif. And if you were to continue that D, it would probably go out of that circle. The circle is also too thin to hold in that logo, I think. The letters are very thick, and it's a very thin line, and I think that's part of the reason why it doesn't look as strong. And I actually did tweak it just a tiny bit, and no one can see it but Murd. But if you look, can you see? Oh, it's kind of backwards. But if you thicken it up a little bit, it's a little bit better. But then if you put a thicker line, a thicker circle around it, I think it makes it look a little bit better. Not too much. It still is very evocative of a sports team, but that's because of the blocky serifs. I think also a thing that I do find a little bothersome, and this is just, this is not me being negative on DC. This is me coming from a brand identity. If you were to look at all the photos that you can see online of the evolution of the DC logo, the evolution makes sense. You're looking at, it keeps tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and it stays kind of in the same. And then you go from the bullet to the swoosh in 2005, which everyone talks about. It's very different, but it still has the same elements. And then a few years later, they do the peel away, which is a complete, brand re-identity. Some people didn't like it. Some people liked it. A lot of designers actually seem to like it. A lot of comic fans don't. And then you completely rearrange it again in less than, 4 years? Yeah. And to me, in 10 years, or a little over in 10 years, you go 3 different identity changes. That worries me. Because it's not as if they were tweaking it every time. They were doing complete reimagining. And when you look at that as a business standpoint, it almost seems like they just keep throwing things against the wall and trying to reinvent themselves. And this is something that I was discussing with my coworker who knows nothing about comics. She's not really, she reads, an image book here and there, but she doesn't have any, she's not invested in DC or Marvel in any way. And, she was, commenting that, the idea of them going through such dramatic changes makes her think that it's not a good thing. When you see that, it makes you question, is who's changing? I guess it's more like a changing of the guard. It makes you think that they don't know what they're doing. And I think, maybe subconsciously that's kind of the reason why people don't like certain things that DC is doing, because, it just feels like they're just throwing things together. And I'm trying not to be negative about this.
No,
you enjoy certain aspects, but it's something to really think about. Why do they feel the need to constantly change? Because, 3 different logos in 10 years, that's a lot. And I mean, it's a huge, dramatic rebranding.
Yeah. I guess I'm just of the school that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's very true.
And I guess that could be again, idealistic, but it's do you need to have change for the sake of change? It's always somehow just rubbed me the wrong way that, we have to have change. Well, change is good. It's stop with the slogans and everything,
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
if you
were
to look at the evolution of really famous logos, say the Coca-Cola logo, the Pepsi logo, the Shell Station logo, you'll notice that every time they're tweaked, they still incorporate old elements. So it looks like an evolution and not a dramatic change. And the problem with these 3 DC logos is it seems like a very dramatic change every time. They're not tweaking it and slowly getting you to get used to a new thing. They're just going right in your face and changing it. So that's my rant on
well,
DC
again, like I said, I'm happy that we have somebody on the show like Danny who can speak to this thing in outside of the geek nature. She has a background on. She knows what she's talking about.
Yes, I hope it made sense. I mean,
it made perfect sense.
It's been like 10 years since I went to school, and I had to look up a lot of stuff because once you get out of you learn so much in design school, and then once you get out of design school, no one follows the rules in design school. They just break everything, and then you end up going, what was that thing in the letter called?
And, I've seen a few things online, sort of like what Danny did. Oh, here's my interpretation of it. Oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. You have a thought about it. It's like, but everybody has, I guess the first impression that I saw is that, really? And that seems to me like what the internet also felt about it. They had a lot of really? Why? But, again, it's not the end of the world. It's a new logo. Wonderful. Okay, let's move on. But I wanted to talk about it, and we have the perfect person to sort of talk about it. Why not take advantage of her?
Logos are important.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'd like to think that my career choice was somewhat important.
But she brings up a great point about in 10 years, 3 changes.
It's a big deal. I mean, when you really think about it. And I mean, not to be all keen on Marvel, but I mean, look at the evolution of the Marvel logo. It's pretty striking. Like, when you see it on the screen, I mean, it's just big and bold, and it looks good. And, other companies have some pretty bold logos, too, that look great. Like, IDW's, it's very bold, very plain, but it looks good, like, on the covers and stuff.
The image eye is pretty classic, too.
Yeah. It's just, I kind of wish they did go back to the 76 bullet. I mean, I'm looking at the DC New Frontier trade in front of me, and it just looks great on that cover. It's very simple. It's striking. Mm-hmm. That is a really good logo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just the right balance of dignity and drama and dynamism. It's classically styled.
Did you just alliterate there?
I did, I'm afraid.
That's fine.
I can't get over it. I'm taking medication for it. It's just
to enhance it or to decrease it. Which is it?
It's a long road.
It's a long road.
But it makes even more sense when you consider there's stated reasons for going in this direction with this logo is to try and incorporate DC's past, present, and future as a company, and that's why you're talking about this being a visual evolution, Danny. They've thrown all the way back to 1972, one presumes. But if they're going to do that, why not throw back instead to the bullet that everyone seems to like by design god Milton Glaser? That is it's the DC logo that's lasted the longest number of years, nearly 30, from 76 to 2005.
Yeah.
If they're trying to evoke their own past, that would seem to be the thing to do. Go with a version of that instead of going all the way back to 1972. I guess they think they're extending an olive branch to old fans with long memories, and I can't fault them for that, but there's many a slip between ideology and imagery, and I'm not sure that the imagery they've chosen, as Danny has explained at length, is really bringing across the message they want to bring across. All it's really going to accomplish is muddying their brand identity further and confuse everybody.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even if you look at the DC Comics website right now, you can see the logo. I think it's it's the blue, but then it's on a royal blue background, and it doesn't stand out very well.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah,
it doesn't. And, I want to see DC succeed. And if you like the logo, that's great. This is just my opinion. I'm not even going to say my professional opinion. I'm just going to say my opinion.
Well, we trust in your professional opinion, Danny. And, I especially, since I actually saw your tweakings of the logo, and you're absolutely right. Just thickening that eggshell thin outer border, or even adding a little ring inside of it, did a lot to strengthen the entire effect.
It does. I mean, that's a very, very thick font that they're the letter form is very thick, and that's a very thin line holding it in. And I almost feel like where they place the D and the C to be cut off, it needs to go in a tiny bit more because it is creating tension. And when you look at if you look at the C going into the circle, the negative space in that area seems to create this tension that just sort of drives me crazy. And then there's a lot of white space going on in the top and the bottom. It's not very balanced. it's just, I hate that it just looks so amateur. It makes me go, like, I really, really wish they would put out a brief on the reasons why they chose things. Like, if you were to look at when Google posted their new logo, the design company, like, showed all the reasons why they chose, because, you know, when you do something, subconsciously or not, there are reasons for everything that you do. I mean, there's choices for your colors, the font, the angles, the, you know, the softness. All of this is going to evoke certain emotions, and I really would love to hear the reasoning behind this, because if I did, maybe I might enjoy it more, but looking, and I haven't seen it on a page, on a comic. It might look good on a comic. We don't know yet, but, you know, because when you see something, you just see it on a page. When you just see it on a white sheet of paper, it's not that striking. When you see it being used in the medium that it's supposed to be used for, you can see how well it works. Like, when you saw the Peel Away logo, I don't think it worked well, you know, just seeing it. But when you saw it on the screen for the movies and on the TV shows, that looked really cool with the animation.
Yeah.
And, you know, this will look good shrunk down for iPhones and stuff like that, for an icon. But I'm curious to see how it's going to look on the comics itself. Like, I kind of wish when they'd shown the logo, they also showed it on, you know, the cover of the DC Rebirth.
Right.
Yeah, and talking of its appearance at the end cards of the various DC TV shows or at the beginning of movies, you know, how are they going to punch it up to look as exciting on screen in animated form as the Peel Away logo does?
Oh, yeah, they're going to have to texture the hell out of this sucker. I can tell you that already. It's going to need some bold 3-ness going on, and I don't think it's going to look as striking on the screen. But I could be wrong. I mean, the Marvel logo is just, you know, Marvel Comics, and it looks good on the screen, but it has lots to do, I think, with the, you know, the flashy background going on, too.
And I think the first we'll get a chance to see the new DC logo on the big screen would be, I think, Suicide Squad in August, if I'm not mistaken.
That is the next.
Probably.
Yeah, if they can, I'm sure they can slip it on there. You know, there's plenty of time between now and then for them to add that.
Yeah.
But we already know where we're going to see it first on a comic book.
Yeah, I mean, logo aside, I'm looking forward to that comic book very much, the DC Universe Rebirth #1.
Definitely.
So I'm planning on going to Golden Eagle first thing Wednesday morning and picking it up, not just for the logo, but for the content and everything. So we'll see if the Rebirth goes along with the logo, I guess.
Hopefully it's better than the logo.
Yeah,
for me anyway.
We can only hope.
There's an excellent chance that it will be.
Segue time?
I saw you reaching for the soundboard.
Was too subtle, was I? All right. Well, it's been a while since we've had a Muddle the Murd, so we're going to get right back into it. And Murd, give us a recap of what this is all about.
Well, Muddle the Murd is our Comic Geek Speak trivia segment. It consists of groups of 3 questions submitted to you, the listeners, for me, the Murd, to attempt to answer. The submitted questions must follow the following format. There must be 1 Marvel Comics question, 1 DC Comics question, and 1 question about the comics from some other third publisher. And they also must break down in terms of a historical period by 1 question about comics from before 1970, 1 question about comics from between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and 1 question about comics post-2000. If you send in a group of 3 questions that meet these parameters and that I cannot answer successfully, then you will have won a prize of some kind, which I will then mail to you at my own expense.
Yes, and right now we still have available the Whilce Portacio profile of the Hulk.
Mm-hmm. It is a head sketch.
Yes.
On a standard, 8.5 by 11 sheet, or is it a little larger than that?
It's like about a Silver Age comic book backing board size-ish. Oh, he's going to get out. Oh, my God. Well,
why not?
While you get that out and measure that, I'm going to tell you this Muddle the Murd submission comes to us from Jace Millum. Hope I have that pronounced correctly.
The comic source.
Yes.
And by the way, it is just about exactly 8.5 by 11. It's a little bit narrower, maybe 8 3/8 by 11.
He goes, "Hey, Geeks. I sent in this video Muddled Murd way back on January 7th, 2015. We had a little bit of, obviously, fell through the cracks here, some Muddled Murds. So we actually resubmitted it. I'll play it for you, and you can answer the questions and hopefully not get muddled.
Hi, Geeks. Jace from the Comic Source here with what I believe is the first video Muddled Murd. So let's jump right into it. My first question is pre-1970s DC from Superboy issue 117, November of 1964, entitled Superboy and the 5 Legion Traitors. Murd, can you name who the 5 Legion Traitors are?
Well, can you, Murd?
No, actually, I can't.
Can't?
Well, let me begin by telling Jace that he is indeed correct. This is the first video Muddled Murd submission we've ever had. There were one or two video Stump the Rioses.
Yes,
back
there
in
were.
The day. Remember, Maxim Glory sent
Yes.
one. He was disguised as Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury. But yeah, I've never been video muddled before, but this might just be the night. Okay, so I guess the challenge here is to name 5 Legionnaires.
Well, the Legion Traitors, I guess, is what he's
Well,
saying.
yeah, but since I have no idea which 5 were the traitors in that particular story,
Okay.
I'm basically just going to be naming 5 at random and
Okay.
see if any of them are right.
Okay.
Brainiac 5, Sunboy. So I guess he's going to tell us on video what
Yes,
the
he
correct
will.
answers are. Who looks sketchy on the girls' side of the clubhouse? We'll say, not Shrinking Violet. No, Phantom Girl, Ultra Boy, and Princess Projectra.
All right. Well, let's see what we have here, then.
Now, if you've listened to any of the Legion of Substitute podcasts, you know that in the Silver Age, having one of the Legion turn traitor or having animals escape are reasons to take a shot. They seem to happen every other issue. So the 5 Legion traitors in this issue are Chameleon Boy, Ultra Boy, Invisible Kid, Brainiac 5, and Element Lad. We see in a throwaway panel at the beginning
2
of the
out of
issue
5.
that Superboy has moved a planet from orbit around one sun that was about to explode into orbit around another sun, which is safe. Apparently what happened is the blast threw Superboy into a different dimension, another Earth of the multiverse, if you will, where the Legion of Superheroes are actually villains in the future. And these 5 villains had come back and pretended to be heroes, but were about to expose Superboy as Clark Kent, and in these 2 pages of exposition, Superboy, with the help of Superboy from that world, foils their plan. Simply Silver Age goodness. Now,
All right, so that's 1 down.
Yep.
So
the second question is 1970 to 2000 Marvel. From Bill Matlow's classic ROM Space Knight series, what was ROM's base of operations for the majority of the series?
Oh, that is a legit question all the way down the pike. And if Chris were here, he'd probably be twitching with anxiety to answer this. And I have the first issue of ROM someplace, and he probably hadn't acquired his headquarters yet in that issue, so it wouldn't even help me. An abandoned ice cream factory.
oh boy. I'm not sure.
The answer is the small town of Clairton, West Virginia. From issues 1 till about issues 51, ROM operates in secret, trying to keep the Wraths from establishing a stronghold on Earth. Pretty much with the destruction of Clairton, West Virginia in issues 50 and 51, ROM goes public, and that starts the Wraith War crossover with a few other Marvel titles, and after that, ROM's much more mobile. The final question is independent from 2000 until now. From Robert Kirkman's Skybound imprint, The Criminally Underrated Clone. How can you tell the original apart from the clones?
Clones don't have belly buttons?
Is that your final answer?
Sure.
At the beginning of issue 6, we see that the original has the Greek letter alpha tattooed on the inside of his left forearm, but it's only visible under ultraviolet light. As you can see, I wore my clone t-shirt for this video, Muddled Murd, and I'll have to tell you guys a story sometime about Robert Kirkman's thoughts on the shirt and how he threatened to sue me. So anyway, I hope I managed to muddle the Murd, and if not, I guess I'll have to try again. So keep up the good work, geeks, and I'll speak to you soon.
And so, yes, you have been muddled, sir.
So I have. Well done, Jace Milam. I'll be sending this handsome Will Portasio Hulk profile head sketch out to you on the West Coast sometime in the near future. Just as soon as I get in touch with you and get your address.
Oh, well, I can forward you the Muddle the Murd email that you just got muddled from and take it from there, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and if any of you out there want to take your shot at muddling me and winning something we have lying around the studio, by all means.
Well, we actually have to think of a new prize now that we're out of prizes.
No, we'll come up with something.
Okay.
So just send your submissions, your trios of questions to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. Don't forget to include answers for all 3 of the questions you're asking me. And best of luck.
Best of luck. Okay. Well, we got a few more things to go from our CGS mailbag. Now, Danny, I don't know if you heard it last time, but we actually have something here in the studio for you from Julie Benson to get.
Yes, you did tell me that.
Okay, next time we see you. Oh, that's right. We saw you at the free comic book day thing. Mm-hmm. So, Murd, we actually got something today from Tomorrow's Publishing.
Oh, that's always fun.
So, you're such a great reader. Why don't you read the press release about this new book?
All right. For immediate release, Al Plastino, Last Superman Standing. With a comics career dating back to 1941, including inking early issues of Captain America, Al Plastino was one of the last surviving penciler inkers of his era. Laboring uncredited on Superman for 2 decades, 1948 to 1968, he co-created Supergirl, Brainiac, and the Legion of Superheroes, drawing those characters' first appearances and illustrating the initial comics story to feature Kryptonite. He was called upon to help maintain the DC Comics house style by redrawing other artists' Superman heads, most notoriously on Jack Kirby's Jimmy Olsen series. I remember hearing that little chapter in DC history, much to his chagrin. His career even included working on classic daily and Sunday super newspaper strips like Nancy, Joe Palooka, Batman, and others. With a foreword by Paul Levitz, this book, by Eddie Zeno, also author of Kurt Swan, A Life in Comics, was completed just weeks before Al's recent passing. In these pages, the artist remembers both his struggles and triumphs in the world of comics, cartooning, and beyond. A near century of insights shared by Al, his family, and contemporaries Alan Bellman, Nick Cardy, Joe Giella, and Carmine Infantino, along with successors John Bogdanove, Jerry Ordway, and Mark Waid, paint a layered portrait of Plastino's life and career. And a wealth of illustrations show just how influential a figure he is in the history of comics. And we actually do have a copy of Eddie Zeno's Al Plastino book now. And yeah, I did read in the Krypton Companion, I think, about how Al Plastino was one of the artists called upon to maintain the visual consistency of the Superman character as he appears in different books drawn by different artists. So he was the facial reconstructor.
Yeah. And I think there's also an Easter egg in one of the early episodes of Supergirl. I think they might have been seen at like a Plastino in the back, like in a plant or in a truck. So yeah, plus Supergirl. I forgot about the League of Superheroes as well, that he was one of the first on those. So yeah, another great book from Tomorrow's Publishing.
I'll pass it on to Chris. He might be interested in taking a look at it too.
And as I mentioned previously, I also have another package here. This is from Patrick James Aslin from Canada. It looks like
Etobicoke.
Okay.
Etobicoke, Ontario.
All right. Well, anyway, the package says all over. It says open during comic talk. So I'm going to open it during a comic talk, and let's see what we have here. Got a couple. Ooh, there's a postcard inside here. Oh, thanks to the hundreds of hours you and the other geeks have provided me and other listeners over the years, and I'll leave it up to the other geeks how to interpret the shirt. Patrick in Toronto. Okay, now let's see what the shirt here says here. It's speaking of logos. It's the
Honey Nut Cheerios B. I think his name is Buzz.
Yes.
And next to him is the slogan, "Who needs pants?" Because Buzz does not usually wear pants.
And it's my size, an extra large, because I'm a very large extra person. So, awesome. I will wear this shirt in honor. Let's see, where's my next public appearance? Public appearance, kind of like I have probably Heroes Con.
Probably, yeah.
Where we'll go down to see Eric Noel Withington from Tomorrow's Publishing.
Yes, we will. You'll have copies of this book and lots of other goodies on offer.
Plug. So thank you, Patrick.
And looking on Wikipedia here, I think it might be Etobicoke, like the K on the KE on the end might actually be silent.
Aha.
Interesting. I would never have guessed.
All right. So, has anybody read anything recently they'd like to speak on?
Let's see. I finally read the first trade of Lumberjanes.
Okay.
And that is fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Help me out here. What's the premise, if you can?
It's kind of like they're the equivalent of Girl Scouts. Mm-hmm. And it takes place it's like crazy genre, some like almost Scooby-Doo vibes on it, some Indiana Jones vibes out of it. It's just this really fun romp about these girls who there's something definitely very odd going on in their campsite, and they go on adventures, and there's like, I think there was like Yetis and a sea monster and something else, some kind of creature in the woods. It's just, I wasn't expecting it to be so off the wall, but it's so much fun. Noelle Stevenson is a fantastic writer. She's only like 20-something, and it's ridiculous how good she is. It's such a great book. If you have, a young girl, a teen, a tween, this is the perfect book to give her. It's a great book to get kids with, especially, young girls, but there's no reason why boys couldn't enjoy it either.
And who puts this out?
That's from Boom.
Boom, okay.
It's part of their Kaboom imprint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you planning to read the Gotham Academy Lumberjanes crossover, Danny?
If Bill orders it, maybe.
Well,
I have the first 2 Gotham Academy trades sitting at home. I think I read the first couple issues of Gotham Academy. I really enjoyed it, but then we just switched to trade on it, and I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. And then I was going to start reading Spider-Gwen, but then I got very angry because when did Marvel start putting out trade zeros?
What?
Yes, I'm reading trade number 1, and when you open up the cover, it shows an advertisement for trade number 0, which we have. I didn't realize.
Okay.
But I was like, what is this nonsense? Yes, now they're coming out with trade. Bill's like, yeah, it's something they've been doing. So instead of it being trade number 1, I guess it collects, I think it collects issues that weren't part of the Spider-Gwen series. But it's still, I was like, I feel like I'm missing things, so I have to read trade number 0, but why are you trying to confuse us? Why? I don't understand it.
Yes, Marvel does seem to...
I hate the way they number these things.
They've lost their grasp of basic arithmetic in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to go into a store and buy trade number 1, and then, because you didn't realize, because trade 0 was out, because who would think that you were missing trade 0, you'd probably be really pissed off that you were missing a part of a story.
Yeah.
But I was so angry that I was like, I'm not reading this.
I don't teach them.
I was like, I'm boycotting this until I'm in the mood again. And read Lumberjanes instead.
Very good. So, Murd, what do you have over there?
Well, Brian, I've started to work my way through my collection of IDW's trades of the Silver Age classic Thunder Agents.
Which was originally published by...
Tower Comics.
Tower. I knew it wasn't...
So, independent.
Oh, okay. Is this the Wally Wood stuff?
Indeed, yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lot of work by... Well, it's kind of... done by a whole shop of different people. Mm-hmm. Wally Wood was one of the primary creators.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is Thunder Agents Classics Volume 1. You know, this big, thick trade here, it's like 240-some pages. It only collects 4 issues.
What?
That shows you what kind of a bulk deal you could get on comics back in the Silver Age. So those... Each issue of it's issue 1 through 4 of the first series. They must have been like 64 pages each.
Was there... Oh, I don't want to steal your thunder, but was... No pun intended. There... Were there different stories in each issue? Was it one big story?
Oh, yeah, there were several different stories in each.
Okay.
See, here's the cover to issue number 1, 25 cents cover price.
Wow.
Back in 1965, I think is when it got started. 1965. But yeah, so there's like 4 or 6 different stories in each issue.
Wow.
You know, with different creative teams. You know, a lot of them had Wally Wood art on them, but we also had Golden Age great Reed Crandall doing some stuff. DC Silver Ager Mike Sikowski
really
turned in a bunch of art there.
I love his work in the Justice League and Wonder Woman, of course.
Oh, yeah. And Berks County native Dan Adkins.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually a character in here named after him.
Damn.
John Adkins. He's a member of the Thunder Agents Thunder Squad, who are a bunch of plainclothes specialists.
I absolutely love learning new stuff like this. History comes alive.
It sure does.
So spin us a yarn, Murd.
Okay, so Thunder is an acronym for the Higher United Nations Defense Enforcement Reserves.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yep. And so it's about a team of superhuman and non-superhuman operatives who are answerable only to the United Nations, and they didn't even have to sign the Sokovia Accords to do that. Some of them have special devices that give them superpowers. Wally Wood was kind of notoriously cantankerous. He didn't have much patience for the superpower concept. So he wanted to make sure that the superpowered characters in this series had limits to their powers. And so all of the superpowered beings on the Thunder Agents team have a special device invented by the genius deceased scientist Professor Jennings that gives them their special powers. Like the Superman of the group is Dynamo. He wears a special belt called a Thunder Belt, which gives him like enhanced. It condenses the tissues of his body to make him super strong, super endurant, invulnerable to harm for a certain amount of time. But once the belt exceeds his body's ability to adapt to the energy charge it gives him, his body just shuts down. So he has a limited amount of time in which to make use of these powers. Then there's Menthor, who's kind of like a reverse Jekyll and Hyde. He was actually an enemy agent who infiltrated the Thunder Agents team, but whenever he puts on the Menthor helmet, which gives him telepathic psychic abilities, it also changes his moral alignment and makes him a good guy. So he's unable to actually work for his employer, the archenemy of the team in the first few issues, the Warlord, because every time he tries to use his powers against the Thunder Agents team, his allegiance changes automatically, and he actually ends up working against the Warlord for the Thunder Agents team. And then there's No Man, who is a deceased scientist whose consciousness lives on in a series of robot bodies, basically disposable robot bodies. He can body hop from one body to another. And he has a special cloak that gives him the power of invisibility, but only for a certain amount of time while its power charge lasts. And and then there's also the Thunder Squad, which are just a team of people in these sort of red uniforms that have no particular powers, but they do have special skills. Like the only female member of the group, Kitten, is the technician. She's the gadget specialist. And then there's a explosive specialist, and there's a master strategist. And they have little stories of their own. Like it's kind of like All-Star Comics in the old days, where these characters don't all go into action at once. There's different little features for each of them. Mm-hmm. They're all going up against a common threat, but they're approaching it from different directions. For the first few issues, it's the Warlord that I mentioned. He's sort of this generic Cold War era boogeyman, until you learn in the third issue he's actually an agent of a race of subterranean mole men who's trying to attack the surface world. Yeah, interesting stuff goes on with these characters. I mean, this is only the first 4 issues, but I know that as it wears on, the personalities of the characters develop. Characters die occasionally, which is somewhat unusual for the Silver Age.
Yeah.
It's a different flavor of Silver Age comics. It's still recognizably Silver Age. It is a little bit on the silly, corny side, but it distinguishes itself from the kind of cape and mask stuff that you'd see at DC, or even the Marvel style of superhero storytelling, which humanizes the characters but sort of turns the soap opera drama up several notches. It's its own entity, and it's probably one of the best known and most fondly remembered Silver Age costumed hero series of the Silver Age, not from Marvel or DC, with apologies to some of the stuff that Charlton was putting out. And I'm happy that IDW is working at getting it back into print, not only the issues of the Thunder Agent series, but the several spin-off series for individual characters. There were a couple of issues of No Man, there was a Dynamo series, and it's all being reprinted. I think they're up to their 6th or 7th trade volume now.
Wow, because I see it looks like for the Thunder Agents title proper, there was only about 20 issues out that got put out in the 60s.
All right, but when each one is like 64 pages long, it's going to take a few volumes to get through them all.
That's true.
Yep. So I've read the first one. I found it very entertaining. Nice change of pace.
I really haven't caught up on too much recently. I'm still the most recent issue of the Vision #7 came out, which was sort of a fill-in issue, but just so much it delved so much into the history of the Vision and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, and brilliantly illustrated. There's some humor in it. There's so much history that Tom mines from to go in this. I mean, of course, talk about their marriage, the kids. Just a great read, and it's just a little breather before the final, 5 issues of his run on the Vision. So if you're not picking up the Vision, do yourself a favor. I mean, the trade was just solicited, the first 6 issues. Number 7 is a standalone. It just came out. I don't know why I didn't get it when it first came out. I should have known better with Tom and his work. But it's a wonderful book, and I think a lot of folks are going to miss it when he goes exclusive to DC.
Yeah, I'm missing it now, actually, because Golden Eagle is under-ordering it. So the last couple of issues I've missed off the shelf.
Oh, because I just went there and got issue 7 last week.
Ah, well, then you were one of the ones who got there before I did.
Well, I got there first thing on a Wednesday.
Yeah, you see, I never get there until like 1 p.m. So. But they ordered an extra copy for me. So
well, that's nice.
Yeah, they do that for you.
So I'm sorry if they snagged your issue.
That's okay.
This is why you have to tell your retailer that you want a comic, so you don't miss these things.
I would have
they can't be mind readers.
I would have a pull list, Danny, except I'm only a customer there for a certain number of months out of the year. And I don't want to have to put my pull list on hold for the months I'm in Stone Harbor. So I don't want to jerk them around that way.
All right. Is there anything else anyone wants to chat about, to bring up in this comic talk episode?
Nothing that I can think of.
Have we shot our bolt, as Chris wants to say?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Say it, for he's not here to say it himself.
All right. Well, now, also, Danny, I want to mention, and also mention to our listeners, in our latest preview, we went over the books we're going to do for our next Off the Rack. I'm not sure if you caught the episode yet, Danny, but we're doing Batgirl and the Birds of Prey Rebirth #1 from DC. Mm-hmm. From Archie, Betty, and Veronica #1.
That was my suggestion.
Yes, and Murd's suggestion from Valiant, the ongoing Faith #1.
I'm very excited for these batch of books that I can read.
Yes, and I already ordered the trade of the first of the Faith miniseries to go along with that.
Yeah, I really want to read that.
Yes. So those are our next selections for Off the Racks. Mm-hmm. Coming up in, they come out the same day, July 20th, out at the first day of Comic-Con. So we'll get to that sometime in August. Well, I mean, that's when we'll get to that.
And coming up much sooner than that, we'll be having Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther #1, Micronauts #1, and Bloodlines #1 from DC. That's our next chronologically batch.
Yes, which is sort of overdue-ish, sort of.
Yeah, well, we do fall a little bit behind on these things.
Yeah, well, it's our hill, these are our beans.
Indeed. And our listeners have learned to be patient with us over the years.
Thank you very much. All right, well, if there's nothing else, and that's going to wrap it up here for us on our Comic Talk episode, and hopefully look forward to some Preacher chat in the future, as well as maybe some DC Rebirth chats.
Amen.
All right. If you want to send us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. We can also send your submissions for Muddled Murd. If you want to leave us a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, or Comic Geeks Speak. You can join in the conversations at thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com. Talk back about this episode, as well as many other topics. There actually is a DC logo thread on the forums already.
So there is.
Yes. We want to thank everyone who contributes to the show. We really appreciate it. Could not do without you. And as always, we're uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.